everyone, and welcome today for our border extravaganza. So for Less is bringing this education to you with educator Ann Moore, and Ann's going to show you how to work your borders using the Westerly design templates. We will have giveaways, we will have so many tips and tricks, and you got coupons to use. So don't forget to use those. I'll be putting links in the chat. If you have any questions, please pop them in there. I'll be on the back end helping Ann answer your questions. And Mike, let's tell us more.
Well, welcome back, everybody. Of course, this is another episode of the So Show. We're joined today with the beautiful Ann Moore, and I'm really looking forward to what she's got to show us in her Borders Extravaganza. I know we do a lot of stuff on, specific types of blocks. We don't do a lot of shows on borders. So I'm really expecting this to be a very popular show. We do have a couple of things before we start, like Sarah mentioned. The giveaways are announced during the show. And the way that you're eligible for that is if you have registered. Our shows are free. All the classes we bring to you, all the education is free, but we do ask that you register in advance. That's how we know we can pick your name. So you do have to register in advance for the giveaways. The winners are announced a couple of days after the show, but we will be telling you what we're giving away during the show. So that's a pretty exciting part of our live education. Again, guys, just to reiterate, our shows are free, but if you don't register in advance, you aren't eligible for the giveaway. So make sure that you do register in advance. We did create a VIP group on Facebook. It's kind of a fun way to join in the conversation after the show. All of our educators are part of it as well. And I'm really excited to share with you guys that it's been a very active group. I saw a lot of people posting their creations from last week's show. So I'm going to challenge everybody once more. Let us see what you're working on. Show off your work. It doesn't have to be perfect. Listen to our educators. They'll tell you it's supposed to be fun. Don't stress over little mistakes, but post what you're working with so everybody can see. Everybody loves to see progress. It's one of the cool things about quilters. Everybody loves to see what everybody else is working with. And that's one of the benefits of joining that VIP group. We created a special shortcut. It's super easy to get there. All you do is you type thesoshow.com in your browser, and it'll take you straight to that Facebook group. Again, it's also free. All you have to do is join. Happy to say we're about 1,600 quilters strong in there. So we've got a lot of dedicated and loyal members. I think you guys will really enjoy it. We do put these shows on every Tuesday at 1 o'clock p.m. Central Standard Time. That's every Tuesday at 1 o'clock p.m. Central Standard Time. And we do that so that you guys can put it on your calendar. It's super easy to remember. And in fact, actually, that brings up another point that I created a special calendar just for the So Show. And I think Sarah's going to be sharing that link in the comments for you guys. We do so many shows. Sometimes it's hard to keep track of where to register and where to go to watch. So what we've done is we've created a calendar, and I'm going to be updating the event listing as soon as we have registration. So what you'll see in there when you click on one of the events, so if you clicked on today's event, you'll actually see a listing of all the events we have planned all the way through December 28th, which is really cool. You can see what's coming up. But one thing you'll notice is that you can't register for all of the events yet. And that's because the event pages haven't been created, but they will be updated. But it's a great way to keep track of what's coming up. And you can also sign up for an email notification as well. And you can do that through the Facebook group. There's actually a post specifically regarding that. One of the things I do want to mention is that since we've partnered with So Steady for the So Show, one of the things that they offer is continued ruler work education. Now, of course, guys, all the classes that we bring to you on Tuesday are free, and we're very proud to do that for you guys. It's a great way to learn. Live education means that you can ask comments live to your educator, and they're addressed right there. And so all of that we bring to you free of charge. If you're hungry for more ruler work education, you can always check out So Steady University. Now, Sarah will be putting that link in the comments for you guys. And what So Steady is, it's additional courses that are prepared and put together by our educators. There's actually I don't remember exactly how many educators, but there's quite a few. So we've got about 6 talented educators that we work with for the So Show. There's quite a bit more on the So Steady University. One of the cool things, and this was brought to our attention, and we're very happy to report to you guys, any purchase that you guys make through So Steady University, the lion's share of that money actually goes directly to support the educators that you guys love as far as bringing the content and keeping you guys quilting. So I really appreciate you guys bringing up that point. It's very important for us to make sure that our educators are taken care of. And just as a side note, they'd get the lion's share of that revenue. The cool thing is there's a lot of free education there too. So it's something that you guys definitely want to take advantage of. We do have some exclusive show discounts, as Sarah mentioned. She'll be posting that coupon code for you guys in the comments. Those discounts are good for 2 weeks. So you've got 2 weeks after the conclusion of this show to take advantage of those show specials. Now, the cool thing is you've got 4 weeks to watch it. So if there's something on here that you see Ann using that you've been wanting to try, you've got an additional 2 weeks beyond the expiration of those coupons to get your items, go back and rewatch and recreate the things that Ann has made. So it's kind of a cool way to shop. Like I said, that discount, that exclusive discount for today's show is good for 2 weeks. And you've got 4 weeks to watch the show. So it'll give you plenty of time to come back. And that's a good point as far as even though you're watching the replay, you won't be able to ask the comments. You can always go over to the So Show group that we created on Facebook. And Ann is a part of that. So if you've got a question, you can always get a hold of any of our educators right there. It's really a great offering as far as the So Show. It really brings it into a community as opposed to just here's a class, here's a class, here's a class. You're never left just without any help. So definitely check out that group that we created on Facebook. I did mention commenting a little bit earlier. Don't be shy, guys. That's the whole reason we're doing this. These shows are live. And as I mentioned, that means that you can ask questions right there in the comments. So Sarah will be watching the comments. I'll be watching the comments. So we'll be stopping to address any questions that you guys have. So don't be shy. If for nothing else, just let us know where you're watching from. It's always kind of fun. I'm really proud of the fact that the So Show has gone international. We see people all over the world watching. They're either staying up late or getting up early to catch the show live. So that's really kind of fun. But again, guys, don't be shy. Just make sure you comment with any questions that you guys have because it's the whole point of watching a live class. But just a quick summary. We do this every Tuesday, guys. We do ask that you register in advance. That's how you're eligible for the giveaways. But without anything else, Sarah, I think I might have got it all. I'm ready to see what Ann has in store for us today.
Perfect. And winners will be announced, where are we, Tuesday? Probably end of the week, you'll get a follow-up email with all the winners being announced.
Perfect.
So let's get started. Hi, Ann.
Okay. Well, hi, everybody. Welcome to the show. I'm excited to bring you borders. I know we've done a lot of things with blocks and things like that, but most quilts get a border, so let's play with that too. But I want to tell you a little bit about the quilt that's behind me, and I'm going to kind of step away so you can see it better. Starting tomorrow, and Sew for Less is one of the sponsors, we are having a group virtual event, and it's going to last all the way through January the 14th. You'll get 2 blocks every month. I will be coming live to you for 2 hours every month, except for September. I'm actually coming to you live twice, September 1st and September 10th. Now, there is a sign-up fee for these classes. It is $10 if you want just one individual class, or it's $50 if you want all of the classes, which means that you get one of the classes for free. And as you know, I kind of incorporate free motion quilting along with my ruler work. So you will get my free motion quilting and my ruler work both in each block. And there's an added bonus to it. Everybody loves the Temple fuse and the Temple method that we use, so much so that I am adding an extra block and an extra separate quilt, kind of, you might say, using the Temple fuse method. So we'll be doing something a little bit different with that one, but I'll be showing you, you'll get the main gist of how to put the block together. But then we're going to move over a little bit and show you a kind of a trapunto method of adding, some extra loft to your block, but also giving it the temple method that we love so much. So if Sarah will take it back for a moment, I will grab my camera and move it around the corner and get set up and get you started on the blocks that we're, or not, sorry, the blocks, the templates that we're going to be using for our blocks, for our borders. So give me just a moment to do that and we'll get started.
Thanks, Anne. And in your emails, everyone, you had a link to all the sales page where all these purchases help out both Mike over at Sew for Less and Ann Moore. So these feature a ton of items. All these prices here, you get that extra 10% off that price. So lots of products to see, lots of pages to go through and add to the collection you already have. So a great time to buy, and you do have the 2 weeks to use that coupon code. And you'll have, again, that whole 30 days to rewatch. So if there was any tips or tricks that Anne mentioned that you wanted to utilize and maybe you forgot, give it a rewatch, and then you can always add to that cart. Oh, very good, Anne. That's definitely our border sampler set.
Yes, it is. Great set of rulers. I use mine quite frequently. I have, of course, a couple of favorites, but I'll try not to show them partiality today. Anyway, this is the border sampler set, and you get 5 rulers in it. And I always tell my students, because I've learned on my own that this is true, if you can purchase your templates in a set like this, you're going to save a little bit of money, probably about 10, 15, maybe even $20. So I always try to buy them in a set when that happens. And if I end up with any duplications, that's okay. If I want to, I can share them with friends, or I can just leave them in the packages that they're with. And that way I don't leave home without it when I go. You all know I love to do retreats, and that's where I get a lot of my work done. So if I grab up my border sampler set, I know all of those templates that are on this front are in that set. So that really just helps me a whole lot. But if you need to share some of them, well, of course you can. Now, this is the rope border that we will be using today. And I've done a little bit of playing with it during the week. And I've added some little, kind of some decoration to it. You know me, I'm going to embellish it a little bit. So we're going to add that to our work today. We have the continuous border loop. This is one of them. There are actually 2. We'll be using this little guy, and I'll have to show you in a moment something that I was able to play with. It's actually in I'll just show it to you really quick. See this right here? It's like, oh my goodness, I want to learn how to do that. Well, it took me a little bit and I worked on it a little bit, but I actually have made that. So we'll put that aside and then I'll show it to you in just a moment. Here is another one. This makes a figure 8 continuous loop. So it's really cute, and of course I'm going to embellish it and play with it a little bit also. And then here is, and I just hate to be, show you my partiality, but this really is one of my favorites. I use it a whole lot, and I even had it put into the Flower Power set of rulers. So it comes apart, and you get actually 2 sizes, and it's a continuous heart. So it's really, really cute. Now I'm going to show you a couple of things that I worked on while I was getting ready for the class. Remember, I told you I wanted to draw out this little design right here, and I wanted to be able to stitch that out. Well, it took me a little bit because I didn't really find any instructions in here, but I'm going to show you what I did and kind of how I started with it. Let me grab that one really quick. It uses this template right here. And as you can see, I kind of started up at the top and then you just design it out. There we go. And then you come back along and you turn your template upside down and you do the same thing again. And that's how you get this really neat looking design in the middle. Now here it is stitched out. And I thought this would be such a fun reveal if you were going to use a reveal fabric on a quilt. And it gives you this great big super wide border. So of course I would probably come along in this one and maybe do some stippling up here in this little top edge right here. I would probably cut away, and I don't have any fabric in here to cut away because I didn't know how it was going to turn out and whether I was going to like it or not. So I really, really, really recommend to you that you grab some paper. And I was shopping with my mom recently at Hobby Lobby, and they had some great just newspaper paper that you could buy in tablets. And you could actually draw all of these out if you wanted to and leave them attached in your tablet. Mine are not attached that way. I actually got my paper from the newspaper office and I bought end rolls. But if I had the tablets, then I could keep them all stored inside that tablet and be able to go back to that source. Now, what I've done here, since I don't have access to a tablet like that, is I roll them up and label them and put them in a container so that I can go to that source. But I do recommend that you draw these out first. As you know, most of our fabric is about $12 a yard now, maybe even higher if you're in some other countries. Well, if I do it this way, then I have not spent any money on my fabric. So if I mess it up, I've just messed it up on a piece of paper, which is fine. So that's why I recommend that. Now, while I was playing with it too and trying to come up with exactly this design, I came up with this one above it. And all it was turning the ruler just a little bit different way. And I put the ovals at the end instead of the points at the end. So come along with this. I think this would be very intriguing in a quilt that you have a lot of busyness to. Like if any of you did my Flower Power series recently, this would be a fantastic border for that. And you could do a little cutaway if you wanted to, and you could also do some pretty fancy little stitching in all of this. But when I came up with this, at first I looked at it and thought, that looks like that would be really difficult. And then I told myself, no, it's not. It's exactly the same as this. You just handled your ruler a little bit differently. So I'll be excited to see what are some of the designs that you as my students come up with. Here that same template is again. I've just widened it a little bit. And then here it is again, kind of in a narrow form. And I've used a ruler, and you may have to go actually to the website itself to find this, but it's a DMQ Quilting. She's on our website, and she has this tool that we can use to draw with. So I'll be using that a little bit, and I just wanted to mention it to you. You may have to go straight out to Sew Steady's website to find it, but it's a
And I'll
pretty
be
good
putting
learning
the
tool.
link in that. It's definitely, I've added it to the sales page.
Oh, awesome. Did y'all hear that? Sarah added it to the page. So wonderful, wonderful. I've only had mine a couple of weeks, but mentioned it to all of my friends, and they're all ordering it also because it's a fabulous tool. And I tell you what, I know it's a little bit hard for you to see. So let's just put it on this black piece of cloth. And you can see it's got these little openings, and we all use Chaco liners. I can mark my lines on here. Now I want on this black piece of cloth because that's where I lay out my rulers. But I have one in a little bit that I will be marking off for you. So awesome tool. It comes 4x12 and it comes 12x12. I got the 4x12, but I think I probably will in my next order just get the 12x12 too, so that I have all these neat straight lines. So fun tool. I'm really liking it. Now I've done a little bit more play, just trying to figure out what would I want to do. If I wanted, here's my, we're going to start with this one first. This is the rope border, and I just played with it a little bit, and I'll actually be stitching one of these out and then playing with it for you too. And this one, I actually turned that tool. Let's grab it really quick. I had it going this direction, and then I flipped it and went this direction. And I thought if I had had these perfectly touching, that would have been really cool, or not. I could do this without them being perfectly touching too, and just put some kind of little design right here in the middle. That would be amazing. I know my joke has always been, I started out in the garment industry, just making clothing for myself, not making it for the public or anything like that. But if you got a hold of a pattern and you made it and it didn't fit you, well, oh geez. Now I learned, of course, over the years how to measure and make sure that it was going to fit me. But I remember when I was just starting out, didn't have that knowledge, and so sometimes things would be made and they would be too big or too small. Well, we all. My joke is, if you make a quilt and it's too small for the bed, just add another border, or add however many borders you need to make it as big as what you want for your bed. You can even split it up and put kind of borders in between. But that's how we would make a bed quilt as big as what I need it for a particular bed. Well, in one of those really wide borders, wouldn't it be fun to do the rope and then do it mirroring itself? And then that gives you a really nice wide border. In fact, let's see just about how wide that would be. I think that would be way fun. That would give me about a 5¼ inch border. And of course, I would leave a little space at the top and the bottom too. Now,
And
remember
Anne,
the one we had? Yeah,
oh, sorry, we had a quick question earlier. You had a little
sure.
like egg shape border. Is that going to be shown today? It was one of the first ones you had on screen.
Um,
I think it was just, it might have been on fabric, like a stitch out. That one, yes.
that one.
Yeah, what template?
If we have time, oh, this is this template.
Yeah,
And if we have time, yes, I will do that. This one is a lot more detailed, but you know what? We have 2 hours. Why not? If See if we have enough people that are interested in me doing this one, and yes, I will make sure we have time for it,
perfect. And what's that
because
one? The continuous
it is a
loop?
continuous loop. That's really all it is, and it was inside the pattern uh, for your border template set. But I thought I didn't see any instructions on how to do that particular design, so I just kind of figured it out on my own. But if we get enough interest, I will make sure and leave enough time that we can make this, because I know most of these templates, everybody, you can look at the instructions and figure it out. So maybe the people today would like a little more elaborate design. I'm not sure.
Yeah,
Let me
let
know
us
what
know.
you're
And
looking for.
it's the continuous loop from the border set, right?
It is. It's this one right here. Can you see
There's
that?
two that come in that set. What's the number
Mhm.
on that guy?
I don't see a number on it, but it's kind of long. Let's see.
Does it
Yeah,
say 2x3 on there? Is that what I'm
it's a
seeing?
2x3, but then
Perfect.
the other one that says continuous border loop is a 2x3 also. Let me grab it. But you can tell it's obviously different. But we're going to talk about this one too. I'm going to show you where I've drawn that one out to. And like I said, please draw these out and play with them. This is that one. To me, it's a figure 8, but it doesn't mention that on my set. Now, I've had my set for a few years, so yeah, they may have come along and added some additional information on it. But it's just a wide 2, height 3, and it's also called a continuous border loop. but it does this little great figure 8 looking thing with a point to it. So it's very similar to ribbon candy, but ribbon candy doesn't have the points on the end of it and probably would not be quite this curvy. So just bear that in mind. But this is one we will be using today. In fact, I plan on using all of them. And of course, I want to have time to decorate a little bit of them too, because to me, that's just so much fun when you can add your little embellishments to it.
And Anne, the crowd has spoken. They definitely want to see that one. So,
Okay, would they like for me to start with that one?
well, I'm sure there would be no complaints.
Well, okay, let's do that then.
Give the people what they want.
Yeah, yeah, that's what I say. All right, so we won't use this piece of fabric. I have another one. We'll use it later. But I had one that I laid out in case y'all did want that one. So let's do it and show you how I draw that one out also. And did not have time to get all the fuzzies off of this one. Shame on me. I am going to go grab, let's see, no, I can use this one right here. And I made that, let's see how wide I made that one, because I'd like to make it the same depth. This one is 4 3/4 inches wide, so let's just do that same thing again. And here I am using that basic marker. I love this guy. I just got it maybe a couple of weeks ago, but wow, it's wonderful to use. And I'm going to go ahead and put all these marks in because I know I'll need them. I'm going to have to come along and extend them, of course, but that's okay. Okay, now let's do 4 3/4. That would be right here. Let's do one down here. And I'm a lefty, so that was a little bit difficult right there to do with my right hand. And that doesn't look quite measured right, so let's try that again. 4 3/4. 4, yeah, it's not. Yeah, see, that's what I get for trying to use my right hand for my drawing. I know better. The only thing I can do with my right hand is I can cut with scissors because I grew up in a rural town. We didn't have places where we could go and buy left-handed scissors. So I learned with right-handed scissors, and it's gotten me by all these years. So every now and then I'll run up on a pair of left-handed scissors or a pair of scissors that can be ambidextrous, but it really doesn't work for me. Okay, let's get this one in. Let's turn it around so I can have a line to measure with. I'm glad y'all asked for this one. I just found it very intriguing. And, I know when you piece a quilt, you put a lot of work into it. Wouldn't it be fun if you could put like a fairly simple, straight color border and not pieced maybe, and then do this kind of elaborate work on it? And I just think that'd be way fun. All right, now I'm going to put this one up in front of me to use as my guide because I'm going to need it. Now let's move over. Oh, I had a couple more pieces laid out. This is the hearts, and I usually use them together, the large one and the small one. This is one where I just did the cutaway. And then here's another one where I didn't do cutaway, but I just put them in. So I just wanted to show you all those really quick. Now let's talk about my setup over here because I know you need to know that too. I am using a Bernina sewing machine in a cabinet. And now pretty much every sewing machine out there will actually do ruler work. But this happens to be the one that I'm using. And I'm in a cabinet, but I decided this last time when I got my new machine that I wasn't going to buy the insert and the the tabletop So Steady table. I bought just the tabletop table and not the insert. What I've done here to set it in place is it has pegs for where your legs would go. I just left the legs off, and I'll just show you. This is really cool. You can see it's just sitting on its pegs. I think you can see that. Oh, let's try and go this way. It's just sitting on its pegs. It works beautifully. I've adjusted my machine to where it would be the right height in it, and I love it. I get this nice, great big, smooth, slick surface to work on, which is very, very important in our work. And of course, you see I'm using a ruler work glider, the green one with the small hole to it. We also have one that's a grid glider that has a larger rectangular hole over here, and it will allow your feed dogs to actually be raised and be in use. Now, I use that one a lot, but I use it mostly when I'm piecing a quilt. And this one happens to just be my favorite whenever I am quilting the quilt. So I've got everything set up. Now I'll show you something really cute back here. How many of you have ever said, well, I wish I could see the back of my work. I wish I could see the back of my foot. You see this little mirror right here? This is something that Sew for Less has for us. And it's a pretty handy little tool. I can look back there and I can see the back of my foot and the work that's going on back there. So that's kind of a handy little item to have. And I can't tell you how many, especially beginner students, I've had over the years say, I wish I had something that I could see the back end, the back part of my work. Adjust this just a little bit. There we go. Had to find something to put my camera on so that you can see it really well, but it's not quite right in my face. So let's go ahead and get started. Let me find that ruler again. I laid it down. What did I do with it? Oh, how fun. I laid my ruler. There it is. Okay, there's my ruler. If you will notice, I have, once I get it where you can see it, notice I have staple tape on the back of my ruler. You need about 4 pieces, and those are about a 1/2 inch by 1/2 inch. So that's really all you need. They're in the 4 corners. And if you'll notice, let me back this off a little bit. Leonie tried to think of everything that we would need when we were using her rulers for our work. So you've got registration marks here and here. Grab something I can point with a little better than my finger. You have registration marks here, 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 all the way across here, and you can use these. They're true registration marks. You can use those to line up your work, and I think that's really important. Now I'm going to be lining up, and I'm looking to see how I need to come on this. Okay, there we go. You saw me draw out 1-inch lines. This is a 2-inch by 3-inch template, so the design itself is going to be 2 inches by 3 inches. So as long as I use the registration marks that they have provided, this will work just fine for me. Here's what I'm lining up with. This is my center. There's my center. Here's my center right here. Here is my center over here, and this is, I'm going this direction. So as long as I have this and this lined up on that straight line, that 1-inch line, I'll do great. It'll work out just fine. So I'm going to go ahead and start. I'm going to start here. No, let me look. Let me give it just a second so I can remember exactly where I started. Here, here. Okay, no, I've got to start here and go this direction because I will need to be moving my template this way. And this is another reason you might want to draw it out on paper first. That way you know, like I need a little arrow that says it's going this direction. So I don't have one handy or I'd put one on. So anyway, let's go ahead and get started. And I want my stopping point to be about 1/4 of an inch above my drawn line. That's just going to give me a little room in here to decorate if I choose to. So I'm going to put this on the first, here's one line, here's the second line, and then this third line is extended all the way across. So on the second line, the middle line, we'll call it the middle line. That's where I want to put this template. And I want to line that up. And I'm just kind of eyeballing right here and just making sure it looks like I'm right there in the center. So I'm ready to sew. You know, I wear gloves, and the reason I do that is because in the beginning, when I was first learning to do this, it seemed like all I was doing was pulling on my fabric and wearing my shoulders out. And at the end of the day, I would be so exhausted. Got a good night's sleep, but it makes your shoulders sore. So if I can use my gloves and hold everything that way, it makes my life a whole lot easier. So let's go on and move over here. Get this where you can see it. There, I think you can see that pretty well. Now, I want to drop, and I know I go over this every single time, and I know a lot of you are our faithful followers that we see every time we teach, and I appreciate that so very much. But sometimes we have new students too who have signed on, so I want to make sure that they know the basics also. So what I did was dropped my presser foot out in the middle of the template where it's all open. And I'm going to pull this up to the back of the template then. The reason I do that is I don't want to drop this presser foot on the edge over here or out in here on the template itself. There are some machines out there that would attempt to force their way through that template, and that's the last thing that we want. It can create a dangerous situation for you. So always get in the habit of just dropping it there in the very middle, and you'll be just fine. There we go. Brought up my bobbin thread. You always want to bring your bobbin thread up so that you have it on the top. You can hold it with your fingers. Now I'm going to drop this again, just kind of out in the middle. The reason we do that though is because eventually I probably, especially with me using a contrasting thread so that you can see this, I might want to bury those threads. So if I do that, bring it up to the top, then all I have to do is make a knot in it and use a top loading needle, and I can bury those threads really easily. This also keeps me from having a bird's nest on the back of my work. So, and I just told you we need to start over here, didn't I? See, I need an arrow that tells me which direction to go. So let's do all of this again. Easy, easy though. I had not made a stitch, so we're just fine. Except that, yes, I could use a couple arrows. We have those arrows. They're wonderful. I think that's going to be one of our giveaways today. All right, so I'm ready to start stitching. Now, if I were using a matching thread instead of a contrasting thread, I would do 4 tiny stitches. I'm going to do that anyway, though, because this is probably not a piece that I would incorporate into maybe one of my quilts. And if it does, well, it may just have a little extra thread in the top where I started, so that's okay. So I'm going to do 1, 2, 3, 4, and then I'm going to start stitching around. Now my feed dogs are dropped, which means that I am in control of how big my stitches are. And looks like today I'm having a good day. My stitches are fairly uniform. As soon as I come to the curve up here, I stop, and I'm going to realign my ruler. I can get rid of these. I'm not going to bury those. We can't. We could if we wanted to, but like I said, I probably will not include that in a piece of my work. So let's just go ahead and get rid of it. Now I want to line up again, and I want to do the exact same thing. I have this center line right here and a center line down here. I also have this little center line here, and so I'm going to just kind of push it over and line up right there. I may have to take one more stitch. That's fine. I've made sure my tension was good on this machine. Standard is at 5.25, and I had to lower it to 3.5 to get a good stitch today. So sometimes it just depends on how tight your bobbin is wound and some things like that. Now I'm lining up again. Here's a line here, here. Here's my center, and then here are these lines, and I'm just lining up on those lines just to make sure everything goes the way I plan for it to. I don't know if y'all have ever noticed, but it seems like the darker your thread, the harder it is to get a nice, pretty stitch. I've noticed that, and I talked to a technician one day, and he said he thinks that it has something to do with the dye itself. So I tend to shy away from, say, a black thread. I'm going to lower this a little bit more. Let's go to 3.25 and see if I like that stitch. Most of the time I can get by with a stitch at a number 4, and that usually works really well. Just lining everything back up again, just like I did a couple of minutes ago. Taking that extra stitch, and you see I have just a tiny bit of an overlap, and that's just fine. Moving and just lining up. I made all of those straight lines in here, and that's so nice because I'm able to just follow the lines. These are Choco liners. We have them on our website. We use them. I use them all the time. In fact, I just placed another order because I'm really bad about getting somewhere and either running out, or one of my a friend doesn't have one and thinks they're really cool, and so I'll say, well, you can keep that one. So I end up with going home sometimes with less of them than I started with. But you know what? That's what quilters do. We help our friends. My friends and I were having, one of my groups of friends, we were having an ongoing discussion this morning. We have a new quilter in our group, and she doesn't have very much of a stash yet. We all volunteered to help her with that, though. We'll be happy to take her shopping and help her spend her money, making sure she has plenty of fabric on hand. She thanked us, but she said that her husband thinks that she does a pretty good job on her own. We probably all do. Okay, we're getting pretty close to the end. Thank y'all for indulging me. I'm glad that y'all said you would like to watch this project be stitched out. I can't wait to put it on a quilt. I just think that would be so fun. I have lots of registration lines to line up with on my template. It makes it just perfect for me. going to go ahead and stitch it all the way up to the top. Now I'm going to do my 4 tiny stitches. Those are just locking stitches. I'll move this out of the way, raise my needle up, and since I'm close to the edge, I'm not going to pull my bobbin thread up. I'm just going to cut it because it's right here. That makes it easy. Now turn this around, and I have unthreaded my needle in the process. Let's get that fixed. Oh, I see how I did it too. There we go. I got a big, I caught my needle with my my glove. I want to point out something really cool too. This is something new that Bernina has just now come out with. Let me see if I can get this over to where you can see it. I'm going to pull the glove off and see if I can slide this in a little more. Yes, I can. You see this little groove right here? I'm going to put my thumbnail in it. I can slide my thread through that cool groove right there. That's something brand new that Bernina has just come out with, and I was fortunate enough to get one of them this week, and so I've been practicing with it, and I really, really like it. So now we get this back up so you can see again. Now we've turned our ruler around to the other end, and I'm going to do the exact same thing again, and you're going to see that shape start to come out. Now tell myself you've got to remember you have to start on this end. So that's going to be the hard part, is remembering which end you're supposed to start on. Just reach under there, pull that through, push my thread back in place, let's drop that again, and you saw I moved it away just so that I didn't drop it on the edge. Let's grab these and hold on to them as we get started so that I don't have a bird's nest at the back of my work. I've lined everything up again. Remember, I have, let's pull this down so you can see it. Oh, look, there is an arrow. I have this line number 2 is the one that I have put on my drawn line. So yeah, that's probably what that arrow was there for at one time, telling me which way to go. I will line up again using all of the lines that Leonie has placed on here for us. She makes my job so easy.
And we had a question come in. How did you decide on the length at 4 3/4 inch?
Guesswork. You could actually make it a little bit longer, and these would be narrower if you do that. If you make it a little shorter, these are going to be longer. I just looked at that. I studied the photo is what I did, and decided how much distance I wanted. But very good question, and that's something to think about. Look at your border and see how much distance you need to cover. And there again, grab your drawing paper, draw it out, see what you think.
And Anne, would you in a moment be able to adjust your camera angle?
Yes.
We can just see the foot, but it was
yes,
angled
you're
up a
right.
tiny bit.
Yeah, I
Thank
think
you.
I adjusted it down to show you something and didn't pick it back up. So shame on me. There we go. How's that?
Much better, thank you.
Okay, thanks. See, Sarah keeps me on the right path, so you guys can see it too. I feel like I need to take one more stitch. There we go, and line everything back up. Okay. So anytime you need an extra stitch, go for it. Just put one more in. You can see the design. I'm going to move this out of the way. You can see the design taking shape. How fun is that?
And Anne, I'm thinking we should go do a giveaway.
Okay, let's do it.
I just realized. So I'm going to be sharing on screen here. It's our 3-piece Yazzie craft bags. So these little guys, I'm going to share this real quick. So Yazzie makes them. Here they are. And we're actually including these if you purchase a quilt bag, our larger storage bag to house quite a number of Westerly templates. If you do add that to your cart, and I'll make sure it's on the sales page, we're including these 3 little red craft pouches with your order. It does not include the notions that are stored inside, but they're a great little set. I believe they're the smallest one is, I think, 4 3/4, and then they go up by inch, so a 5 3/4 and 6 3/4. Little square zippered pouch. Keep yourself organized. I know I always need any organizational help I can get. And we're going to be giving one of these little 3-piece sets away to one of you local viewers.
Those are really nice. And our bags, the Yazzie bags, are wonderful for storing your rulers. Anytime I travel, that's what I put my rulers in, especially if I'm traveling by airplane. Put those in that bag, and then I put that bag inside my carry-on bag. So I know that they have a really good protection. Those bags are quilted, by the way. And that's what gives us such wonderful protection. Okay, one more to make. Okay, let's move this out of the way. Do our 4 tiny stitches. Cut both of them. All right, let's move this back out of the way so you can see. There you go. And I'll show you how I would embellish this. I would probably first come along inside and maybe do a little bit of some kind of a rounded stitch. Not totally rounded, just a curvy line, let's call it that. I have a great curvy line inside here that I can use, so let's just take advantage of that. All I'm doing is just moving my ruler a little bit to the right. And I'm filling this with a curvy line. I'm going about maybe an eighth of an inch.
And
Yeah.
the camera angle, the
Oh,
camera's
wow.
dropped way too low again.
Way too low. Wow. All right. Something's loose. Let me see which one of these is loose.
Thanks.
There we go. Okay. Yeah, you couldn't see anything. I'm so sorry.
And yeah, it keeps
It's
slowly
doing-
creeping down.
It does. It's creeping down. I had that doing that recently and thought I had all that fixed. So let's see. One of these little balls is loose. Yeah, that's loose right in there, and I don't know why. Let's see if we can adjust it so that maybe I'm not touching it. It's going to be ornery today, I can already tell. Maybe I do need my shoulder up there. That's weird. Tell you what, let's back it off. No, that's so tight I can't back it off. Okay, let's see if we can turn this a little bit so that it doesn't keep. I'll move this towards me. That may help. Okay, bear with me just a second. Let me straighten this up and maybe I can straighten up the arm. Oh, that's what the problem is. The arm is pulling loose. Bear with me just a moment. Oops. Okay. Let's back this off. Am I going backwards or not?
I know I have so many easels because I have camera equipment, and so I definitely know sometimes, eventually, I'm like, this is I've used it up. It's done for, and then other times
Yeah.
I'm just like, well, I'm gonna crank it harder, and then it sets. But yeah, I've had this a few times happen. And
Okay, I think we got it that time. Let's move this table a little closer. Okay, I think that may work.
that's looking stable. Oh, good.
Okay, let's see if I can move this. Or just bring it a little closer in. How about that?
And either way, once your hand a little closer, definitely. But as long as we got stable, I can. If anyone needs it to be a little closer, let us know.
Yeah, let us know. I'll bring it further in. Doing my best to keep my fingers out of it so you can see. Okay, probably one more, and that should be sufficient. Yeah. Okay, and this one I'll bring up my bobbin thread. This is all you do to bring up your bobbin thread. There's my bobbin thread right there, so I'll pull this away a little bit. You can see it and cut that. Cut those and get those out of the way. Pull that out of the way. That's a way that I would probably decorate that just a little bit. Let's see if we can you see that pretty well? And then maybe up at the top, I would pretend like, we'll pretend like this is a stitching line. So I would come along with it. And I really would like to get you in closer. Let's just move this in closer. There we go. I would pretend like this is a stitched line up here. And I would do a little bit of stippling. And I would make my stippling tiny. Now remember, when I do stippling, I think of E's and N's and gingerbread men. And this is really small. So I've got a little area to work in, so I don't want it very big. I'm just mostly just filling up this little area. Leave an area that looks kind of like I missed something. I'll just go back in and just put a kind of a wiggle in it, which is what I did right there. Got just a nice wiggle into it. Do a little bit more of this and then I'll just stop. And then let's say I wanted, what else? Okay, I probably would do a cutaway in here, which I can't do a cutaway because I have no fabric behind it. But if I didn't want to do a cutaway, maybe I would do pebbles or something like that in that. But let's go ahead and cut this away. I'm going to bring this in a little bit closer, not closer, but give it a little bit, a little more definition.
And Anne, we had a question.
Sure.
Would you decorate each center the same way?
Possibly, or I might do every other one. Let's do that. I think that would look really cool, and that way you'll kind of get an idea of how that would look. I don't think I would do all of them. I would do every other one. That way you get that nice curvy roundness in there. So let's do one more, and we'll take a look at it, see what we think. Boy, this is really fun. I kind of get to play, and I'm creating on the fly, and I'm doing it kind of at the student's suggestion. So that's really a lot of fun. I like this. I like this game. I'll play anytime. We'll use this again for our curvy line.
We had another question come through, Anne.
Sure.
They asked, if you get eyelashes on the back side of your quilt, how do you adjust for that?
If you get eyelashes on the back of your quilt, that means that your top tension is too loose. Tighten up your top tension. You would need to go, whereas mine started at 5.25, and my tension was too tight on the top, so I loosened it. I went down to a lower number. If I were seeing eyelashes on the back, I would go to a higher number. And then if you still have problems, maybe get one of those nettings that you can put over your spool of thread. That will work too, just to kind of give you some more tightness. Most of the time I don't have eyelashes on the bottom, although I can tell you a horror story. One of the first quilts and when I was just learning to free motion quilt way back, I changed my bobbin and forgot to check my tension. Always check your tension when you change bobbins, especially. But I didn't. And I did about a 6 by 12 inch section of nothing but pebbles. Flipped it over and looked at the back, and all I saw were eyelashes. I was sick. I had to rip that entire thing out. But the good thing was, since it was eyelashes, one of my threads was really, really loose and one was really tight. So the one that was really tight, which would be my bobbin thread, I was able to just pull it and pull a lot of it free. Of course, I was doing pebbles, so it wasn't quite as easy as that. But it was easier to pull out because of that situation. But always check your work, because believe me, people are going to look at the back of your quilt. it's going to get accidentally flipped over the wrong way, or go in one of the shops and it's always turned uh, wrong side up. And I think that's pretty cute, but my tension was really good. And so when they put it back on the rack, it's just not noticeable that one is the top and one is the bottom. So you always want to check that. And we'll flip this over in a minute and you can see my back tension. So I always check that. I've got a little piece of fabric and I'll show that to you too. Okay, now you can see I skipped every other one, and I think I like that design. So there we go. And that would, if I did that all the way across, I think that would really be pretty. Now here's, and we'll flip this over in a minute, but here's how I check my tension. This is a scrap of fabric that's pretty much loaded like this fabric that I'm using. And so I will just make sure I've got a sandwich. And I keep these, this one's about 6 by 6, and I just keep those handy. This was one I cut up from something that didn't turn out quite right. Now here's the back side of my work. I've got a loop. Let me cut that. That's where my thread didn't come up. That's the back side of my work. And to me, the back of it looks as good as the front does. So that's what you would do for tension. Just make sure that it's really good when you start out. A lot of fuzz on the back of that. Unfortunately, black brings in a lot of fuzz. But I would put this decoration down here also, and then finish it out, and I would call that finished. And I think it would really look great on especially a heavily pieced quilt that has a lot of different colors in it and things like that. I would probably just go more simple on the border and then fill that in. So we're ready to go to another one. Let me grab my fabric that I had just a couple of minutes ago, and we'll get started on another one.
And I'm thinking time for another giveaway.
Okay.
And we're going to be giving away, let's see here, what else was there? Well, I think it's time for some stitching line discs and ruler stickers. And I think, was there a little ruler sticker on that quilt template you were using a minute ago?
There was actually a stray one on there.
It was a stray one. She wasn't using it for that. But these
I
guys
wasn't
here,
intending to use it, but it was there. And,
well, you saw it.
I
So those little ruler
stored
stickers
it.
are great for you to remember where to stop or where to start. Since, the Westerly rulers are so versatile, you can really create a lot of different designs from one template. Stopping the stitch, 1 inch a little farther or shorter can give you a different look. So using these little reusable ruler stickers are great. They come in 3 colors. They're repositionable. And I noticed some of you viewers were mentioning how you also enjoy practicing on paper your quilt creations before committing to fabric and thread, which is a fabulous idea. A nice little pastime too, I might say. I can, get a little table out and have that in front of the TV while I relax in the evening and do some drawing. So that's kind of nice. So I can get creative with the stitching line discs before I head over to the sewing machine. So we'll be giving away both these items to one lucky winner.
Awesome. Yeah, I don't leave home without mine. I've got extra sets of both of those so that I always have them whenever I'm traveling or going off somewhere to teach or going to a retreat to work, whatever. Okay, now I have these kind of drawn off and I have little notes. We're going to do the rope. Let me see if I can grab it. Of course, I pushed everything out of the way while I was working. Okay, let's talk about this particular ruler. Let's see if I can get it up here where you can see it. There's an A, B, B1, and A1. I would probably start at A1, come all the way around, and stop again at A1. slide my ruler over, you're going to start at A. And then you're going to stitch all the way around, stop again at A1. Now you can stop at B, you can stop at B1, but I've just chosen this path today. Now, there are a lot of lines on this one, as there are on all of our other ones. This would be more of a center line right here. It's a little dashed line that you can see. Here is another dashed line. That's the line that I'm actually going to put on my drawn line, because that's going to let me see how this one is kind of halfway formed beside it. These are going to let me line up with the next one in line. And it also lets me line up over here. I can look at my lines and just make sure that everything looks like it's going to line up okay. So let's put the dash line, and let's start way back here so we have plenty of room to make several of these. Remember, I said I'd probably start at A. I think I said I'd start at A1 on this one, but we'll start at A, like what we would normally do. Put that back through the groove. I'm going to drop it in the middle, drop my ruler foot in the middle, and slide over to A. And there's a little bit of a groove right there, so I know I'm in a good spot. Always raise my ruler foot, get my bobbin thread up. There we go. I need to drop my presser foot again, but I'm just going to move it over a little bit so that I know I'm not dropping on top of my foot. On top of my template, rather. My foot on top of my template. I'll get it in a minute. Okay, now I've lined everything up, so let's get going. Travel to B. B1. Here's my A1. Travel back over to A. Now I have a choice. I can go the long way around to A1, or I can go from A to A1. The short way. So I'm just going to, for this one, I'm just going to go the short way. It's going to give me a travel line, and that's okay. And there's an arrow right there. I don't think I stopped quite on it. There we go. Now all I do is move this line, move this template over, line everything back up. And if you'll notice, let's pull this away a minute. You see this line right here? Let's see if I can make that a little darker for you. Nope, kind of hard to do. Maybe I need to find something and cover those lights up a little better. I've got them on 50%, but they're still pretty bright. Okay, I have this line right here. If I pull this over and I line it up exactly on top of that stitched line, it lines up really easily, and I know that I'm in a good spot. So now I'm ready to start again. This one's lined up on top too, and this should let me travel right down this edge. And it does. I'm kind of right beside it, but I'm on top of it too.
And we had a question come in.
Sure.
They're asking, can you start and stop at the A1 mark?
I don't see why not. I think you could probably start and stop A1 or B1, either one. However you do it, you're eventually going to have a travel line. There's no way around it. So just be aware that that's going to happen, but that's okay. That's part of it. Now you could, I guess there is a way you can prevent that from happening. You could actually cut your threads every time. Well, I'm not going to do that. I definitely wouldn't want to do that. But if you were working on maybe a show quilt or something, you might want to start it and stop it each time and cut your thread, or not cut your threads, but bury your threads. I just wouldn't prefer to. On your instruction book that comes with, there's a little, like your little pamphlet that comes with your ruler set. It not only it shows you the top of your what's all inside your package, but it also has some instructions in there too. And you can kind of look at those and study them a little bit. They will give you good instruction as to where to start and stop. Okay, we'll see if we can get one more in. Barely, but I can. Whoa, I'm drifting. Now, that's awesome. Let me show you what to do if you start drifting, because sometimes it happens. I pulled up my thread, or pulled up my needle, and I dropped my presser foot back in an area where I'm not drifting. And I actually should have made sure I was lined back up again, but that's okay.
And we had another question. Can the bottom scalloped edge be used?
Yes, it can. We'll do that. Okay, I just made some tiny stitches, and I'm going to go ahead and pull this up and cut my threads. Also wanted to point out, if I were working along and maybe did not want to cut my threads, I have a little gateway right here that will let me in and out of this template. But yes, let's do that. Let's do the scallop for the bottom. I think that would be a lot of fun. And I'm going to turn it upside down just because it's easier for me and I wouldn't be working at the bottom of my work. Or maybe turn it to the side. How about if I put it right here on this edge where each one of these would line up, just like that. Great questions, everybody. Keep them coming.
And once we see the scallops, we had someone else asking if you might be able to show us how to turn a corner with the rope template.
That one's difficult. I can attempt it. I don't usually turn corners. What I do is put in maybe a cornerstone.
Well, that's a good idea. Maybe a quick cornerstone, because we want to see the best way you do it, for sure.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I use a lot of cornerstones because I hate turning corners. Kate's really good at turning corners. I'm not. I should go watch one of her videos. I usually do watch her videos, but I should watch one and find out how she turns a corner. Okay, and then I would probably just come right at the edge of this using the side of this ruler. Let's see, let's pull it out just a little bit. There we go. Okay, if you were going to turn a corner on one of these, let's see, what would I do? Good question. I would probably come on over. Let's see, where would we do that? Come on over one more and just make the top of it and make it just kind of curvy, and then come back around like this. I tell you what, let me grab a piece of fabric and let's just play and see if let's see if I can turn a corner. Let me grab another piece of fabric really quick. Here's one. That might let us turn a corner. Now I'm just playing because, like I said, I put cornerstones in my things so that I don't have to turn corners. But let's give it a try. And Sarah, you can tell us more how to turn a corner than I can.
No, you're gonna have to be the expert on that one.
I'm gonna have to wing it, huh?
I know, like you said. I mean, I'll do the testing on paper for sure.
Yes.
And I might argue the cornerstone. I mean, certain templates definitely lend themselves to consistent corner turning without too much pre-design. But I would probably, honestly, if I wanted to ensure my corners have a certain look, I might start in the corner and then go down one side and then start in the other corner so they meet, like you said, and make that cornerstone so I know they're balanced. And if for some reason, like with the rope, each one is a coil, a segment of the rope, going balanced from the corners and meeting, let's say, in the middle of the edge of the quilt, and then just having them be like, the two designs may kind of meet but not sync, can still look consistent rather than having just one full strip of rope, I guess you could say. So it's one of those things where it's that subjective preference, and deciding what look you like, and on the entire, motif going on in the rest of the quilt, that's where that artistic side comes out.
I definitely use a lot of artistic side on mine because I said I don't typically make a corner. I just do a cornerstone because I don't care to do this. I think this is probably what I do. You can see I've really turned it drastically. And note to self, go watch how Kate does this because she does beautiful cornerstone or corners in this particular. Let's see, how would I do that? I'll probably do something like this. And truly, I'm just playing because this is not something I do. And I probably would then make this match back up down here. Whoops, and I really drifted. That's okay.
And I know flipping, like the ropes, since, if you have the rope, I believe in, tell me if I'm wrong, Anne, because you've played with the rope probably a little more than me. If you're quilting with it right side up, as you are now, where the letters, you can read,
Yes.
it'll coil clockwise. But then if you flip the template over and then the letters are upside down, it's going to be coiling counterclockwise, correct?
That's right. And I drew that off a few minutes ago. Let me pull that back over here. I drew this off a couple of days ago, and I have them countercoiling against each other. And if I had closed the gap in here, I thought that would really make an unusual design. And then I was going to come along and put pebbles kind of in that on one side of it. So let's go ahead and do that. Sorry you challenged me and I didn't have an answer for it. But maybe I would just do something like this in the corner, or, you know, work on it, draw it out and see what you come up with. And I challenge you, put it on Sew for Less and let us see how you turn the corner. I would love to learn something new. So anyway, that's just kind of a little bit of a corner turn.
And we're gonna switch. I have Stacy taken over to moderate, so
Okay.
everyone, Stacy's gonna be on the back end, getting your questions answered. And I know we will have one more giveaway, so stay tuned for that.
Okay, I am going to put some pebbles in one of these, and then I will drop that and move to the next template. But this was just something I thought would be really cute to embellish. You know me, I'm going to play with everything and add to it, even if I can't turn a corner. Yeah, I'd find some cute template to use for my corners. And if you'll notice in most of my stuff, I have cornerstones. All I'm doing is just putting a little bit of an embellishment. We've already embellished by putting an echo. So why not come along and put some pebbles in? If you're not comfortable with pebbles, hopefully you've got the template set that does circles. And I would maybe use a 1/4 inch or a 1/2 inch circle to do this. Try not to get too huge. I can fit a couple more in. See, that's another way that you can embellish these. Just a row of pebbles in it. Okay, let's move on. Let's do the figure 8. We've not done that one yet. I think this one's really an unusual look about it. There again, Leonie West thought of everything we might need whenever we were using her templates. So she's got all of these registration marks that we can use. So I want to line this one up. Let's see, I'm only going to do this about, is this about 3 inches? So it's about 3 inches high. So of course my registration mark that's right here, right, it's going to land me right on this line, which is exactly where I want to be. Now I want to use this registration line up here and this one up here to stay on that line. So let's go ahead and get started. Whoops. Here we go. All right, I like my threads to be underneath my foot. and usually kind of catch them and hold them with my left finger. Line everything up, make sure it's all where it's supposed to be. Do my 4 tiny locking stitches. Back up in the corner and stop, and then move my ruler over. You'll hear me say ruler and template. I use them interchangeably. They mean the same thing to me anyway. Now, if you'll notice right here, I kind of crossed over the other one. If I want to make sure that that doesn't happen, I can grab my spacing gauge and put it over here on the edge and make sure that I scoot that template over far enough that it's just going to touch the edge and not actually engage in it. So let's show you that. There we go, perfect touch.
And someone was just asking if you're doing the pebbles freehand.
Those pebbles I did freehand. But I mentioned if you're not comfortable doing pebbles on your own, get our template set that's the circles, like the between the lines, and you can make perfect circles every time. And especially if you're wanting them to be absolutely perfect, use our circle makers. They are fantastic. And they're 1/4 inch all the way up to 2 inch. They're great. I use them a lot. Okay, we've got a couple more of these we can put in. Mostly what I'm concentrating on is over here. You saw me using my spacing gauge just to make sure that I can kind of not come into that circle. I want it to be, I want to shift ever so slightly so that it doesn't come into it. There we go. So that may kick it up over here a little bit. There's a couple of things I can do when that happens. I'll show you that.
They were really impressed that you're getting all of the designs done so even, both height and width. And that might go back to your pebbles. And my guess is practice makes perfect, huh?
Yeah, kind of does. Yeah, the more you practice them, the more you're going to have more perfect pebbles. And I remember when I started out making pebbles, they were pretty squirrely looking, but I would practice and just make sure that I could, whenever I'd go up, especially in the evenings to sew, I would start by just practicing a little bit of my free motion for about, I don't know, 10 or 15 minutes. Same thing with ruler work. You've got to practice it. If you want it to be, really perfection, so I need one more stitch.
And the good news, everyone, is that if you're really loving ruler work but you've never loved free motion, what you're actually teaching yourself when you're doing ruler work is the muscle memory of free motion.
Exactly.
So you might find yourself being able to take that template away and create some of these designs better than you ever have before because you've been doing the muscle memory piece of just moving your hands correctly.
She is exactly right. And I laugh when people tell me, oh, I couldn't even draw a straight line. Neither can I use a ruler. We've got these wonderful tools to work with. take advantage of them. I always say that my ruler work, that's my bones, that's my foundation. Whenever I put the free motion quilting in it, that's just to play, that's just to embellish, just because I can. And to me, it just gives it that kind of finished off look. Okay, here we go. We're finished with that. And so let's bring this up and show it to you. I'm just going to stitch off to the edge. Bring up my thread. And here we go. Fantastic for a border. And you know me, I would come along and probably embellish it a little bit. But I wouldn't embellish every single one of these. I might do, say, these two and skip these two. Go to these two and skip these two. And that way, every other one, you just get an interesting look that way. And plus, it's easier too if you don't have quite so much embellishing in it. But, we just take these and we play and we have a good time. We do have a couple of minutes to play on this one. So let's, I'll tell you what, let's do some stippling in these. We'll just do a couple of them. That way you can kind of see that. And then, of course, we're going to move on to the hearts. Hearts, like I said, I shouldn't play favorites, but they kind of are. I use them a lot. They make a really pretty border. And I would do tiny stippling in here. I would not get really big with it. And you probably need to speed up your needle a little bit so that you're getting little bitty stitches.
Someone asked me to repost the Annie's sampler class that starts tomorrow. So I will definitely do that. And then I love what Veronica said. She said that it doesn't, it also teaches not just the muscle memory part, but also that you have to go slower to get good results.
Yes, you do. I've always told my students, this is not a race. What you're after is something that's pleasing to your eye. I had a friend once and she was struggling with free motion quilting is what she was struggling with. And so she started just going as fast as she could. And she wasn't getting any kind of a design, but she was kind of just discouraged. I wasn't her teacher, someone else was. But I thought, I don't speed up like that. I've got my needle going a little bit faster, but my hands, if you notice, they're going pretty slow. Also, if you're not comfortable doing what I'm doing right here, which is just basic stippling, we have some templates. They're designed by Donna McCauley, and there's either 3 or 4 different sizes. Now, she doesn't get quite this small, but she has great stippling tools, and they're called Winding Way. And once you start doing those, then you can probably, like Stacy was just saying, you'll get to where you're comfortable with it and you can do it on your own, and you can go as small as you want to. It's just the practice and the technique. But of course, now if I were doing, say, a baby quilt, I wouldn't want tight stippling like this. I would want it big and loose, because whenever I fill up a quilt with little tiny work like what I'm doing here, it's going to make that quilt kind of stiff. And that's the last thing I would want for a cuddly baby quilt. So I would make that stippling pretty big. But it's wonderful practice. Now, I've done these 2, and let's say I skip those 2, but I want to get around to the other side and I'm lazy, I don't want to cut my threads. Just travel, just go really slow. and stay right on that line. And it's really good practice for you also for when you're ditch stitching and things like that, to learn to stay right in that edge. And you saw how slow I'm going? That's what you want. And then I would put one more in here. Now, and I know I want to end up back over in here, so I'm going to cut out of this corner and work my way back down. Let's see why in a minute. I also don't go in the same direction on my stippling more than about 2 inches for a bigger stippling. On this one, probably no more than about an inch. Because if you will notice, you can start seeing those lines and you can follow a trail. So I try to keep it where you can't really follow a trail. Okay, let's move to this one. Uh-oh. I bet I've lost my bobbin thread. Let's look real quick. That sounded like bobbin. Nope, it's still present. Okay, let's cut it and start again. Now we'll clean up that back eventually. Okay, I would start right here on that line where all of that started happening. And let's see, did I cut my bobbin thread or did I not? Let's find out. Yes, I did. Okay, very good. So I would start right on that line, or I would start 2 or 3 stitches behind where my thread broke. Let's put that down and make 4 tiny stitches. 1, 2, 3, 4. I think the winding way templates would be a really good start if you're not comfortable with stippling. I'm using a 40 weight thread, and I actually use a lot of embroidery thread, so there's always that. Get those out of my way. Okay, to bring up this bobbin thread, and I'll show you how we bury threads. So I think that's something that you should learn, that you should definitely know. Okay, there's my bobbin thread. Let's bring that up. And you saw me, I raised my ruler foot. The reason I did that is because that releases my tension. I pull this way out, cut my bobbin threads, and just pull that thread up. Okay, that's a little long. I do have to pull my gloves off to do this, but I think it's something that you definitely need to know. Make a loop, and some people take their needle and pull that loop down really low. I just use my fingers. I get that's about a 1/2 inch away. This is a top loading needle. This is the brand and it's on our website. It's my favorite. I've tried the side ones, and to not really good success. I actually had a side loading one get caught in one of my squares and put a hole in it. So I like our top loading ones the best. You just pull that knot through. There it is, perfectly. Always put your needle back in place. I sometimes have puppy dogs in my studio, and I never want them to pick up one of my needles in their foot. So there's a couple of them that have just been decorated, and if I were going to do it that way, I would come all the way across and do every one. Or maybe I would skip several of them, maybe do this one, skip two, do this one, skip two, just to so that you can see more of the design that we were actually doing. Now, let's get to my favorite one. And I promise I will work on turning that corner with the rope. I know there's a way to do it. I just haven't used it, so I don't know. Now, you'll notice on my, well, if I can get that on right. You'll notice on my hearts, I'm supposed to have tape on both sides, and I don't.
Someone just asked a great question, and then I thought maybe
Sure.
we should do a giveaway.
Okay.
It says, so do you don't knot your thread before burying it?
I did. Yes, I knotted it.
Okay.
Yeah, I tied a knot in it. I always do knot it. I don't know if there's if you need to or not, but that's not something you want to pull out or to come out on you with like a lot of use or something. So if you put a knot in there, it just helps. And yes, I did knot it.
Perfect. Okay, so I think our final giveaway that we're going to do today is going to be the amazing spacing gauge with the Serendipity Notions necklace.
Awesome.
So that is an essential tool. So I think somebody said earlier, everybody needs to have a spacing gauge. And that is a yes, you do. So our spacing gauge and our Notions necklace. Today I'm gonna make it fun, and our spacing gauge that we're gonna go ahead and go with is going to be the teal spacing gauge.
Oh,
so we have a few different colors. Our teal one is kind of our specialty color. Anne's voting for some new colors for the fall and winter. So we'll see if we can get some new colors going for all of you. But that will be our official giveaway, final giveaway for today. Will be our teal spacing gauge and our Notions necklace. There it is.
all
So,
right.
and you've already shown them how it works, right?
Yes, I've been using it. Sure have.
Okay. Excellent.
Yeah, it is a very, very handy tool. All right, so we'll move that out of the way, but we actually will be using it in a couple of minutes. Now, I am ready to start doing my border with the heart. And I love it when I vary the heart. So what I'm going to do is 2 or 3 of the big ones, and then I'm going to go to varying it with every other one being the large and every other one being the small. So, because we only have about 10 minutes to work, so I want to just be sure that I get all of that in for you. So the first thing I want to do, of course, is drop my presser foot out in the middle in the open area. Now there again, Leonie has thought of everything. Here is my registration line right here and right up here. And then she's got a row of registration lines right here. And this line up here, there's another registration line. It actually lines up down here with number 1, 2, 3, this third short line out here. Get this where you can see it. It looks like it should line up over here, but if you did that, you'd be kind of a little bit off. It wouldn't look good, I don't think. Now you might try it. Like I said, I encourage my students to experiment and play and come up with some designs on your own and show us what you're doing. I'm like a mother hen when it comes to my students. I love to see what you're working on, see what you've thought of to do with our rulers. You don't have to go with just what I've done. All right, I'm going to turn this around because I think it'll be easier for you to see if I'm working towards me. I typically don't turn it around, but I think in this case it will be better for you. Now see, I'm lining up, get my pointer here. I'm lining this straight line up with the line that's underneath that I have drawn. And all that's looking really good, so I'm ready to go. I'm holding those 2 threads so that they don't go anywhere. I'm doing 4 tiny stitches and then just taking off stitching. Hug that template as you're coming around so that you don't drift like I did a few minutes ago. Stop when you get into that curve. Now I'm going to flip the ruler around. Let's go ahead and cut this and get it out of our way. Put this back on and hook it. Line your bottom thread, your bottom lines back up, just like that. I've got them right here and right here, and that looks like it's right where it's supposed to be. The slower my hands go, the smaller my stitches are going to be, so keep that in mind. I like smaller stitches. Lining back up again. Whoops. Here's my straight line Leonie West put in for me. Here's another one up here. And that one looks like it looks a little bit short, but I think it's going to be just fine. So let's push that up maybe a little bit more. There we go. Flip my template. Now this one is really going to cross over into this heart. There's really no way around it, but I'm going to let it happen. And I just want to make sure that each time that I cross over that much into that heart. So let's just go for it. You might could line it up to where it didn't, but I kind of like the hearts connecting myself. We'll put one more in. Just lining all my lines back up, making sure everything looks good. Lining everything back up, and now I had about a 1/2 inch overlap, so I want to kind of make sure that's about what I have here. Yes, I do. So that's going to overlap by about 1/4 inch, and that's going to, I like that. I want my crosses to kind of connect with each other. Okay, and we've got these 3 made, and they're all the same size. Now let's switch to the little one and let's alternate. We'll go a big one, a small one, a big one, a small one. So let's go ahead and get the small one in. And if I need to, I can look back here in my little rear view mirror and see everything lined up just perfectly. Let me see if I can put this where you can see it for just a moment. See my little rear view mirror right back here? I have a good bird's eye view of it. You not so much, but it's right there. And I can look back there and see exactly where my foot is. So that's pretty handy. That's something that Sofrless has come up with for us. Very nice tool. Just lining up on those lines again, just like I did a few minutes ago, with the exception of I can't connect to an upper line up here. So I'm having to really just focus on the bottom line. It looks like you're just out of view, so let's put you back where you can see. There you go. Oh, that looks in view. Now let's switch to my larger heart. Oops, sorry, I've got it really low so that you can see better. Line everything back up. I used this for the borders on the Flower Power quilt. Some of you saw that recently, or maybe took the class recently. Okay, now I want this to just come in and just touch that edge. So what I can do is look and make sure, okay, it's going to be just a tiny bit of a space off. So I can shift this ruler back just a little bit, and that will give me just a touch the edge of that small one. Here we go, touch the edge of it. I'm sorry, I keep touching my camera too, apparently. Okay, I can do the same thing again if I want to. I can line that up and just make sure I'm going to touch the edge but not go too far in. That looks pretty good. And I've got it turned up on this corner a little bit just to make that happen. But I think it's looking pretty good. I could probably take one more stitch, there we go, to get right back on the line. Anytime you miss a line by maybe one stitch, go ahead and take that stitch and get back on the line. Okay, and there again, if I'd like for those to line up, I'll use my spacing gauge, come in here and just back it off a little bit to enough to where I know I'm going to touch that edge. And I missed it, but ever so slightly. That's not something I would go back in and correct. I would leave it. I'm really going to overlap that one. Wow. Okay, I'm going to bring this around and I'll go ahead and cut my threads so that you can see what we've gotten done.
Someone asked, can you use the outer edge of the other half of the big heart?
I know what you're talking about, this right here. I don't think that you could. You could start maybe over here. Here's what's going to happen. You can go this far in. Let's see if I can put this where you can see it. I can only come this far in, and then I could come around the outer edge like this. And then I'd have to stop right there. So you could use it for some kind of decoration, but no, unfortunately, not this little guy right here. Looks like somebody's ear. But no, it's I've not found a use for it yet, other than if I wanted to make a really small curvy line. In fact, that would be a great idea. Maybe I wanted to put little curvy lines inside here, and I could use that to do that with. That would be great. You can use your straight lines out here. Like say I wanted to come in and put some of those straight lines like I did a few minutes ago. I could use the outside edge of any template that you have that has a good straight edge. You can use that for a straight edge. I do it a lot of times. I'll already have this template out and be using it and decide I want to put some straight lines in here. So I'll just grab and use the edge of that template to do that rather than go and find my maybe this tool right here. Now, I keep this handy now so that I don't have to search for it. I've got a little, it's actually a little container that came off of a dish drainer, and it fits in a spot near my machine that it just fits in wedges in there perfectly. So I keep things like this in it so I don't have to hunt them. But yeah, you can use not necessarily this edge unless you wanted to just, use it for some curvy lines. But that's what we have for you today. Let me pull this back so you can see it a little better. I'll bring this up where you can see. We've worked on a lot of stuff. Stacy, you missed it. We even made this design.
Oh, I love that.
That shows on the inside of our instruction sheet with that set of templates.
Yeah.
I drew it out the other day and thought, I want to stitch that out, so I did. And then, of course, you know me, I've got to come in and embellish it a little bit.
Oh,
so
sure.
we
Love
were
it. So fun.
We did all of the rulers today. We had a
You
good
did
time.
them all the rulers in the border sampler. I did post a link to the border sampler. We will go ahead and announce our giveaways to all of you here in the next couple days via email. So stay tuned for that. All of you have 4 more weeks to keep watching this video and just really take it all in. So if you don't have the border sampler yet, I highly encourage you to take advantage of that with the 10% discount that you're getting through Sew for Less. Because as you can see, there's so much potential with what you could do for borders and even, edge to edge quilting with this, just an all over quilt option too. So lots of potential. So looking forward to having you join us next week for the Sew Show. We've got another great opportunity for you there. We did post a link to Annie's sampler quilt series that is beginning tomorrow. And you'll have all the way through, I think, February to continue to watch all of those if you sign up for the whole series. So she's got a great class that she's starting tomorrow, though, so I posted a link to that. And I think that that's all for today. Anne, any final words for them?
Well, and not only that, but with Annie's sampler, if you've purchased the entire class, it will be moved to Sew Steady University, and you'll be able to continue watching it there.
Yes, that's true. You'll have the opportunity to watch it on the Sew Steady University as well. So, so exciting. Well, thank you all so much for joining us today, and we'll look forward to hopefully seeing you next week. Don't forget to take advantage of those exclusive discounts for another couple weeks, and get all of those cool tools that you saw today. So thanks, everyone. Have a wonderful day.
Thank you, everybody. Go